I'm Dani, your resident storyteller and host of the Aid podcast, otherwise known as Authentically Inspiring with Dani. Welcome to today's episode with guest storyteller Shrig. This episode will share a unique form of healing and transport us into someone else's shoes to walk a mile in, with one of humankind's best friends, dogs. This episode has been a long time coming, mostly my fault because of life events that kept pushing this out, but the time is finally here. With that, let's welcome Shrig, and go ahead and give us some background and tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Shrig. If you're going to walk a mile in my shoes, I wear an 8.5. I I have maybe not an unusual background, but I think it's one that we're all kind of finding out that we all have, and that is probably some strange religious trauma and parents who didn't handle emotions very well. And I don't want to blame anyone, and I don't want to, I don't want to blame anyone, and I don't want to be like, I don't like this person or whatever. It was what it was, and we just carry on. I grew up in an evangelical household. Father was a bit narcissistic. There was a lot of emotional and psychological abuse in my family with my sibling, my mother, and myself. That was a lot to maneuver through. And then once I left home, I kind of dropped myself back in the same situation with an abusive partner, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and got out of that years later, and I have been on a healing journey since. And surprisingly, that healing journey has been walking dogs.
Not a typical journey.
Not a typical journey whatsoever. No. But do any of us have typical journeys?
I suppose that's true.
Healing journeys, what does that look like? I don't know what that's supposed to look like, and I don't think it looks the same for everyone.
Oh, no, I think it's definitely different for everyone, for sure. It's a good point.
Different for everyone. Yeah, I don't know. Some people can do the whole therapy route, which is amazing. I would love to be in therapy. But that was never really an option. And so I had to find healing and, acceptance in other ways. And that came, with my job, which is not typical either.
So you're walking a mile in shoes and paws, I guess.
And paws, right. I don't know their sizes.
Big to extra small would be the range, I guess.
Extra large to extra small.
Extra large, yeah.
Extra small, yeah. And they hate booties so much. It's just...
Every dog I've ever met hates booties. My dogs don't like them either.
Bane of my existence. It's just nice floor. And they're like, put booties on the dog. And I'm just like...
No. And they walk around like this.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, everything is dainty. I can't touch it.
Dainty.
Every dog who wears booties gets sensory issues immediately.
They're just, it's almost like they're marching. They pick up their legs really high. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is funny to watch. Probably not at their expense, but it is funny.
No, I don't think it's something that they like a whole lot.
No, definitely not. All right, so we'll move on from laughing at dogs' expense, although I'm sure we'll probably do it some more. So
do it. Yeah.
If any dogs happen to be listening to this, we apologize. So dog walking. You mentioned that therapy isn't an option for everybody, right? Everybody's healing journey looks different. I think that that's a very true statement. I didn't have access to therapy very much when I was younger. I got it as a result of my biological parents' divorce. For a small period of time, the judge court ordered that I had to be in childhood therapy. So I got that for a little bit. But then after that, I really didn't do anything. I didn't go to therapy until I was an adult, and in my mid-20s at that. So I spent my teen years in my early 20s, which is arguably the time for learning life. I did not spend that time well. I was struggling with a lot of my trauma that I was working through as well.
Yeah.
So that being said,
Yeah.
can you share your journey into becoming a dog walker
Mhm.
and how it actually has influenced your healing process?
Yes. So, do you want me to tell the story as to how I became a dog walker? Because
Sure.
okay, so
I'd love to know. I'm sure somebody's curious about it.
okay. So I was working a desk job, and I'm not particularly good at desk work. There is, all sorts of jobs out there to be done, and not every job is for everybody. Desk work was not for me as much as I tried to make it happen. The job that I was working was temporary. It had a start date and it had an end date, and I had the option to apply for the job, which I decided not to do, which, like 12, 13 years ago was kind of risky because the economy was still recovering, quote unquote, at that point, and there was just not a lot of work out there. And about a week before I was about to end my current position, I ran into an old friend of mine. And, she was going one way, I was going the other way. We were both going home at the end of the day, and we ran into each other and started to catch up. And one of the things, one of the things that you do is, oh my God, what are you up to? And he was like, well, I'm a dog walker. And I was like, excuse me? And he's like, yeah, I saw like this advertisement for dog walking from this local company, and I decided to apply, and they hired me, and I've been doing it ever since. And I was like, well, how do you like that? And she said, I love it. The weather is something to contend with, but I
I bet.
love the work. I love the dogs. I love it all. And I was like, that's wild, because my job is ending soon. And she was like, well, they're hiring, so you should, apply. So my job ended, and we were like in the middle of the holiday season at that point too. So the holidays ended, I applied, did an interview, met the owners. It was like a husband-wife team, and I met the manager that would be managing me, and I was hired on the spot. I know that means something
Impressive.
very different 12 years ago, because now when you're hired on the spot, it's like, where that doesn't really work for us. But, it wasn't maybe like that at the time. So, oh, thank you. Impressive. I just calculated that in my head.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
And that's how I got into dog walking. The effects it had on me, probably, it took me a while to notice them, but once I started to, meet the families of the dogs that I was working, the human clients, and I started to hang out with the dogs a lot. And I started to see how, all of this kind of unconditional love was putting me in a very safe space. And all of my clients' houses, whatever was going on with my clients was up to them. I never saw any of that. But those spaces also became very safe. And once I found myself in safe space after safe space after safe space, which I had not really necessarily experienced a whole lot of growing up, those were kind of, like unconditional love and safe spaces were kind of the formula it would take to start to recognize that, I knew I had a lot of emotional damage, emotional trauma. I knew I had a lot of it, but I didn't know that there was a way to get better outside of therapy. But this was like the perfect formula for me to recognize that I could start to get better. Kind of on my own and through my own life, through dogs and safe spaces and which is
Yeah.
all super important for just um it's really important for stability, and it's really important to be able to sit around and have nurturing spaces to investigate all of the stuff that has happened over the past, how many ever years. That's I hope that's not a unique opportunity, but maybe we all find different safe spaces in different areas of our life, but we need to be exposed to them continually. And I have been exposed continually to them for the past 12 years now. So, yeah, I mean, it took a lot, but here I am.
That's it's such a fascinating concept to think about.
Oh, thank
Like,
you.
there's psychologically, I'm sure if they ever did studies on the brain
Mhm,
about the correlations between what happens to your trauma or how you work through your trauma
mhm,
in conjunction with having the safe space, like
mhm,
somebody who's trying to work through their trauma without having those safe spaces to do so, versus somebody who's had those safe spaces or currently has those safe spaces to work through that trauma. I'm
mhm.
sure there's some sort of fascinating information about those two different groups. Um,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
like you, as you were talking about that, I was
yeah.
thinking about kind of, how I started my healing journey.
Mhm,
And it really came from a place of peace for
mhm.
me. And it was any place that for me brought safety
Yeah,
and stability.
yeah.
I talked about this in my last podcast, actually. For me, when I really dove deep into changing how I was thinking about things and decided I really wanted to start healing, I was in a tree, right? Like I literally I climbed up into a tree. I was off of the
Mhm,
ground. I felt away from people. I felt like
mhm,
I was in a space that was just for me, that I
mhm,
could think about things.
mhm.
And I was listening to music, which helped create that space in my head to kind of like block everything out. And I could really just be in my own space with my own thoughts. And that's really when a lot of the realizations started happening for me.
Yeah,
Um, so I think you're absolutely nailing on some sort of commonality there.
yeah.
Um, what was that like for you? If you remember, what was that kind of experience like to realize, oh, I'm in this safe space, I feel safe,
Yeah,
and then begin exploring
yeah.
what healing might actually look like for you? What was that
Um,
like?
Maybe a little shocking at first,
Okay.
considering that, I guess it was just like I hadn't been able to have my own space for so many years because people always kind of demand your space when you're in bad relationship patterns.
Yeah.
They always want access to your space. So I think for the first time ever, I wasn't maybe really aware of it. Um, because not only did I need a safe space at my job with the dogs and the clients, but I also needed a safe space for myself, which had to be my home. And my you know my space, or when I was growing up, my room, or as I grew up, my house, my apartment, whatever, became a very sacred area for me because it had to be mine, and it had
Yeah.
to be the way that I wanted it to be. And to me, that always meant cozy, comfortable, safe. And once I moved into the current place that I am now and was able to, like, it just didn't happen overnight. Like, oh my God, I'm walking all these dogs. Boom, I'm safe. No, it had to be like repeated exposure all the time. And then not only am I safe out there, but I have to come home and be safe too.
Yeah.
And when I first moved here, I was like in a cocoon, like in a shell. This place was very different. It was kind of closed off, and because I needed to heal at home as much as I needed to heal like outside. I almost needed a constant circle, a constant like 24-hour period of just being in safe spaces. And I mean, is that true all the time? No, because I mean, the streets are not exactly a controlled environment.
Right.
There's still like a lot of crazy stuff happening out there.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it was, being safe a lot. And then a few years later, it like kind of clicked on me. I'm like, oh my God, I've been safe. And then it's a little shocking. Like, it was like, oh,
Yeah.
I've been safe.
It's jarring.
It's jarring. Yeah, it's a little
Because
surreal.
it's not what you're used to. Your environment's changed, and you're like, oh.
Okay. Yeah. So, I know that not everybody can have access to that. Like, I totally get that. But I wonder if there are other ways to find, kind of spaces like that. Because I would imagine, going back to the point where you said, if you're trying to heal, but still kind of in a crummy situation, like, what does that look like, as opposed to somebody who kind of has free reign over safe spaces and can heal that way? And I would imagine, if you're still in the crummy situation, it's probably like, I don't know if this analogy is going to work anymore, but it's like driving a stick shift car for the first time. And when you're trying to like, kind of coordinate the clutch and the gas, and you're kind of like, like this, that's probably
Yeah.
what the healing looks like. As opposed to, if you're kind of constantly safe, you get to kind of, maybe it's not like a smooth move forward, but it's a little more of a forward motion, and not so like jerky back and forth all the time, because people can really kind of suck you back
Oh yeah.
into the world that they want you to live in, the world that
Yep.
they think you should be living in. And it was also like connecting with a lot of very amazing friends. Not so much like the family route, because family was gonna believe whatever they wanted to believe, but it was a lot more of finding common ground with friends, finding healthy friends, also
Very important.
really
Very
important.
important.
Yeah, and you don't always know immediately if somebody is going to be a safe space or not, which is why it's like, yeah, let's be friends. And then you start to find out, ooh, maybe they weren't such a fond idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of kind of parts coming together. But after a while, even just the first step into feeling better leads to another step into feeling better, which then leads into another step. And they can be very small steps, they can be very big steps, they can be a whole mixture of steps. But
They could be steps as if you had booties on your feet, right? And all over the
yeah,
place.
sorry dogs, but yeah, but we're still kind of like, it's still like a forward marching dainty motion. Like, you're walking on hot coals, it hurts, but yeah, it's still moving along. And eventually you get to go back inside, take the booties off. And
Yeah,
you're like,
that's the important part. I wonder if dogs taking their booties off is like when women take their bras off at the end of the day, and we're just like, oh
my
God.
Oh my God. So I'm going back to like taking the booties off. When I take my shoes off, I'm done. Like, I don't even have to get to the bra. I take my shoes off and I'm in for the night. Like, whew.
Yeah, as a dog walker, the shoes correlation obviously makes a lot of sense, right? Shoes are off, it's done.
Yeah, there's a total correlation there. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I have an intimate question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what was the moment for you where you realized that working with animals, right, working with dogs, it was more than just a job for you, and it was more about that pathway to discovering yourself and really working down that healing road?
Oh, excuse me. I don't think that it was a particular moment, but I think it was probably a lot of moments
those baby steps you were talking about,
Yeah,
like
the baby steps.
the
I
stick
don't.
shift analogy.
Yeah, using
Which,
the
by the
stick.
way, if anyone's listening to that stick shift analogy and you don't get it, this probably still could be the podcast for you, but just understand that I am old now.
You are
Still
not
young.
old.
I'm still young, okay? I have half
No.
my life left, but I am what is the cool kids would classify as old now.
You are not old. You're experienced.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
You remember
I'm an experienced individual. Thank you.
and you know, I mean, if you ever have a snowy winter, you can go back to it. While younger people are like, "What is this standard age? I don't get it." Well,
Yeah,
you will.
I know how to drive a stick shift.
I know how to.
I learned.
Will it be rusty? Yes. Can we get there? Yes. You know. Yeah.
We will make it there alive too. That's the most important part.
You know, just Google it. If you don't know stick shift, just Google it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a YouTube video for it somewhere. Or TikTok. There's a TikTok for everything. Somebody somewhere on a TikTok has taught people how to drive a stick shift. I'm certain of it.
They're probably like, I found this at an antique museum.
Yeah. Does anybody know how to drive this? Tag a creator for me.
How do you go in reverse? Like,
oh God. Age is just a number. Age is just a number. Age is just a number.
It's just experience. That's all it is. You know, it's just, okay, so there's a line and a sag. Who cares? It's experience. And you remember a stick shift. I don't know anything about stick shift. No, I'm kidding.
My favorite part is scrolling now. I have to scroll and scroll and scroll to find on the websites like the year I was born, and it's like, oh, thanks. Appreciate this is just hitting me in the feels. Appreciate it, website. Thank you.
You should take out like anything like 18 years and younger. Like, why is that even an option? You shouldn't.
Yeah, they do the age groups, right? On some of these websites, they're like 35 to 40 or 45 plus, and you're like, okay.
Oh yeah, no, 45 plus.
Yeah, 45. Whoever's in the plus category, my mom's gonna listen to this, and she's gonna be like, Dani, what the fuck?
My mother can never listen. You are airing out the family's dirty laundry on something I don't even understand. You know, my mother just got a hold of YouTube.
It's not even about, my adoptive mom, right? None of this shit, well, some of this shit is about her. But it's all the good shit. Like, she's never done anything to traumatize me. She's been nothing but supportive and amazing.
Right.
If my biological mother heard some of this conversation, she'd probably try and, like, I don't even know. Find me and maybe, for all intents and purposes, this is a joke, she might murder me.
That's a joke. FBI.
That's a joke. Legally, it's a joke.
Totally
a joke.
That was so funny. And a murder is also like a group of crows, right? She could send a group of crows.
Yeah. It's just, I wouldn't say no. She sent me a murder of crows. That would be kind of cool. I love crows. I'd be cool with that. But the non-animal version of the muck duck, I
brought you into this world, I can take you out of this world.
Oh God, I heard that so many times growing up.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to trigger you, buddy.
Flashbacks.
So do you need to see a picture of a dog real quick? Make it all better.
I'll never say no to looking at pictures of dogs. I love dogs.
I'm pretty sure that's how my friends have been getting through like the past how many years, is like, you know, me sending pictures of really cute dogs and cats with tongues hanging out, and yeah. It's been, you know, I'm happy to be that person. Like, this is where you find joy, with the dogs.
Yeah.
With the cats. Yeah. I'm happy to be
that must be so fun too, to just like get to do that, and like that's your place of joy, and that's what you get to do every day, is just go be in that joy.
I get to
like, and dogs are so like derpy joy too. Like, they're just like, everything is sunshine and rainbows all of the time.
Well, you're describing a golden retriever. A dachshund really doesn't feel like that.
Oh, see, I don't do small dogs. They scare me. Small dogs scare me. I don't do small dogs.
So, you can pick them up, put them in your pocket. The aggression's fine. No. Okay.
No.
It's okay.
The little ones scare me. Some of them are super cute, and I will just look at them with my eyes.
Okay. And then you're like, that's great. They can stay right there.
Mm-hmm. And they can stay cute over there, outside of potential biting distance.
I feel that way about children.
I also feel that way about children, and I have 2 of them. So
children. That's great.
my son actually bit me in the butt today. Like, came up behind me and literally bit me on the butt. And I was talking to his mom, and he came up behind me and he bit me in the butt, and he took off running, screaming, like laughing, screaming. And I was like, where did you learn that? And he goes, at school. And I was like, who is biting you on the butt at school? We need to have a conversation.
Oh my God.
I don't think he learned it at school. He hasn't been to school in 2 days because he's been sick. But I think anytime I'm like, where did you learn that? Because I told him school is where he learns new things. I think now he's like, oh, I learned it at school, of course.
Yeah. I'm really curious to know if he did learn it at school now.
My son, speaking of golden retrievers, my son is a golden retriever for sure.
Yeah. Happy, joyful, bites you in the butt.
All the time.
All the retrievers I know bite you in the butt. None of them.
That's a retriever trait? Okay.
It's not a retriever trait. No, they like sticks.
He likes to put things in his mouth.
Yeah.
That's a retriever trait, right?
Yeah, totally retriever trait. Yeah. Oh, that's my cat beckoning me. Yes, G, what's up? You looking up here? Do you have something to say? Excuse me, just for a moment.
Yeah, additional guest.
Additional guest. Here we go.
Oh, hi.
He was screeching at me from below. So, it just means he wants to be included.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's what it means.
Everyone needs a little cat butt in their podcast, right?
He's going to be famous for your bottoms, sir.
Cat butt.
Cat butt.
What is this cat's name?
Fizzgig.
Say that again?
Yeah, sure. Fizzgig. Fizzgig. Yeah, Fizzgig. There was a movie.
That's amazing.
Thank you. My friend named him. Years ago, probably like the early 80s, like back when stick shift cars were a thing. There was a movie called The Dark Crystal. It's a Jim Henson.
I love that movie. Classic.
Muppet movie. It's really dark. If you ever
it is really dark. I should not have been allowed to watch it as a child, because when I watched it back as an adult, I came to that conclusion. But I did watch it as a small child.
Yeah, and Fizzgig was the orange little fuzzy ball in the movie. And when Fizzgig was a kitten, I guess he did that a lot. And my friend was like, his name is Fizzgig.
That's perfect.
That's sweet.
I'd forgotten about it. Gosh, I had forgotten about that movie. It's like buried in my core memories. That just like I've got little tears because of all the memories that just came out. Like I'm remembering this movie. Like, oh man.
My mother got me a mug. Hold on, I'm gonna find it. And
cat butt.
Hi, cat butt. That's Fizzgig butt. Here it is. Okay. I never used this mug. That's what he looked like.
Yep. That's perfect. That looks like your cat on the mug for sure.
Now you have cat face.
Did you do a side by side of the mug and the cat real quick?
Like, oh, sure. Yeah. Look here, buddy. I know. Look at that.
Look at that. Look at that. You're so famous. You're on a mug.
You're on a mug. You're way cuter than this. I never drink.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Does it still make the noise?
He does. But,
okay.
Not my mug.
Yeah.
The mug's pretty quiet. It's too small to drink coffee out of. I need like a gallon.
Oh, yeah, no. I've slowly been phasing out all of my small mugs and moving towards the big ones, for sure.
It's just getting older, my friend.
Yep. I need more. I became a parent and the caffeine intake skyrocketed.
And now you have a child that bites you in the butt. So you're going to have to incorporate Jack Daniels.
Before long, I'll have 2 children that bite me in the butt because they always do what the other one's doing.
Oh,
so
no.
give it a couple weeks and I'll have 2 children that bite me in the butt.
This is why I don't have. Yeah. Can't do that.
No, you have the furry children,
I have
right?
a
You have the
furry
furry
dog
kind.
who likes to bite me anyway. So
Yeah, see, there you go.
there you go. There you go.
If he bites you in the butt, you know he got it from this podcast.
Oh God. Well, I pulled him up here after that, right? So he didn't hear it. So
Okay, so we've been sitting here, we've been joking about animals and just kind of like the general joy that you get from animals,
the general joy that everyone should be getting from animals. Yeah.
And I know people obviously have their own situations. Like some people have trauma around animals, right? And I totally respect that, right?
Right.
Because there's always a reason. There's always a good reason for animal trauma. So by no means are we disregarding that, right? But we've been enjoying talking about animals and the joy that they bring to us. So,
but is that for everybody? No. And I actually have a story about that. One time I was walking, this is many years ago, I was walking a really big dog. He was like a giant schnauzer Airedale mix.
That's a big dog.
He's a big boy. Yeah. And again, if you don't know what that is, Google it. And then you'll see and you'll be like, oh my God. And I was walking him down the street. I live in an urban environment, lots of people around. And I learned actually a really important lesson that day because I was, walking down with the dog and somebody was walking in the direction coming towards me and he saw my dog and kind of like elbowed his buddy a little bit. And he said, only a white person can have a dog like that and be that well behaved.
Okay.
And it kind of occurred to me that people do see animals in very different lights than how maybe you grew up with animals or how I grew up with animals.
Yeah.
And, he was really cool about it. Like, it was just a passing comment. He probably didn't even know that I heard it. But it was a really good lesson that day in that not everybody perceives everything in the same way that, you or I do.
Yeah.
So, getting back to your point, you're exactly right. Like sometimes animals are not the key. Sometimes art is the key. Sometimes science is the key. Like, why am I the way that I am? And then start hitting the books and be like, oh, this is what my brain knows because it's what it's been taught. And there are many different avenues to go down in order to see the kind of the light at the end of the tunnel in order to see the healing.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I got to learn through all of this dog walking experience because I got to know a lot of my clients, my human clients. And I got to see them kind of go through their problems, go through, like having children, going through jobs, having marriages. Because, if you stick around long enough, you start to see the stuff. Also, really helps that they don't leave the paperwork out because dog walkers can read. And
shocker.
We can read. And I got to see a lot of over time when I started, nervous system started to calm down a little bit. I got to see that, my clients are also going through a lot. But something that I didn't get to see growing up is that things could get better and that things can resolve and there are solutions and you can work on them. As opposed to, I'm just going to sit here and live in my trauma and hold it as a card, as my identification. It is everything I am and everything that I will be and all that I will be. And that's the end of the story. Like, those are one of two roads that you can take. And I'm not here to judge either one of them. But I guess what I'm here to say is that if you do want to get better, it is possible. And I got to see my clients like work out their problems, actually have coping mechanisms. Like this is
The first time I saw a healthy coping mechanism, it blew my mind. I didn't know what that was. I'd never seen it deployed in the real world before,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it messed me up. It threw me for a loop. I was like, people can talk about their problems in a healthy way. That is,
yeah. I screwed up and nobody yelled at me.
yeah.
What?
Oh yeah.
I didn't even know that was an option. Like,
Yeah.
I was expecting finger wagging. You don't do this, you don't do that. But then once I
Some sort of
realized,
scolding, discipline, some sort of repercussion to my mistake that
yeah,
would happen.
yeah, yeah, like these environments exist, and it almost like you could almost like feel it in your brain, like a little new neural pathway being
Like new road opens up.
new road opened up. Yeah, and they lifted up the sign, and it's like, whoop, you can get down this road now. That's kind of literally it. And the first time I saw it, I was, what? Oh, that is a perfectly more acceptable way to be than what I had known. So yeah, it provided a lot of examples of you can be this sort of way, and it's totally fine. It's totally fine to talk about your problems in a rational, cool, calm manner. And if you do get mad, that's okay too. But, we don't take it out on people. Like, I had a bad day. You're going to pay for it. Sort of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like.
All right. No, I as we talk about some of these things, like, I think I obviously I relate it back to my own experiences, and there's parts of this that really resonate with me. I'm just like, yeah, that makes sense. And
Yeah.
you're talking about, I know we all have unique experiences in life, but I've always found it really interesting. It's part of why I wanted to start this whole effort with building a community in this podcast space, because there's these similarities in our stories, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's, it's like, some part of that connection, right? You talked about this neural pathway that like unlocks in your brain, and you're like, oh, that makes sense, right? And it's almost like you're making a neural pathway to another person, right? You've now connected to another person in a way that's like, we can relate. We understand each other on a level that some other people may not understand.
Right.
And so I think it's really fascinating that as you talk about this and you tell your story, there's parts of it that I'm like, yeah, I get that resonates. And
We have to
there's
learn
parts of
it
it,
though, don't we?
yeah,
Like, we have to
we do.
learn that we can, this is an option, that we can do this, that this life exists, that, not everybody's going to scold you because you gave a dog too much food, or I don't know.
Right.
You know? Like, oh my God, I would freak out if I were 5 minutes late over something. But then it was like, hey, you get stuck in traffic just like everyone else.
Life happens.
Life happens out here. Yeah. Oh yeah, there was a lot of learning, but there was also like a lot of boundary setting as well. That was another really big one for me.
It's a good skill, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I would
tell me about that. Tell me about how you learn boundary setting walking dogs.
When you're in relationships where, you have a narcissistic parent or a narcissistic partner or whatever, boundaries are not really a thing. And when you set a boundary, I mean, heads explode. Like,
yeah, all hell breaks loose.
But when you work for yourself, or even if you're working for a company, whoever you're working for, it's really important to be like, for example, I need to check out of the phone at 8:00. And you set that boundary, and you don't answer your phone at 8:00. Like, let's say you pick it up again at 8 a.m. Everybody has had 12 hours to get a hold of you, which is a long time. And once you set those boundaries again, 8 to 8, it's, sorry, he found something to play with. Stop that. There. Once you set those boundaries, you know, you have to stick to them, because if you don't stick to your boundaries, they're not going to work.
Right.
But, you know, if people had their way, knowingly or unknowingly, they would work a person into the ground.
Yeah.
Knowingly or unknowingly. And it was something that, like, oh, I am allowed to say no to work that I don't want to take. Or I can say yes to work, but under these stipulations. Or I'm going to take this weekend off because I need time to recover from working 6 weeks in a row. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's you have to set boundaries. Or if you don't, you will burn yourself out, sir. Sorry, he's eating my garden. Hey, buddy, let's put you back here. Thank you. I know, you don't need to eat that. You don't need to eat that, buddy. Setting boundaries with a cat. No, you cannot eat the dill growing out of the garden.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to give you some greenies instead. That's not a paid advertisement.
This is not product placement. This is just how life is.
So, yeah, boundaries was another really good one I learned. You gotta make time for yourself. You gotta make time for things that you want to do. You have to. People have to behave a certain way if they want to be around you. There can be no tails in the face. There can be no yelling. There can be no, scolding. There can be, you're not a child. Like,
that's such a valid point. Like, it's a valid statement of just existing.
But growing up, we don't realize that we become adults because we're still treated like children all the time. Yeah,
right.
You shouldn't be treating children like that.
Yeah, that is also true. But just to be able to say that, right, and just be like, this is my statement of existing, right?
Yes.
These are my terms.
Yes.
I'm going to exist this way. To regain some of that control when it has been taken from you is just it's so revolutionary, right? You're like, oh, this is a big moment. That's that like light switch that goes off, and you're like, speaking of neural pathways opening up, right? That is one of those other moments where you're like,
fractal just going off.
Yeah, you've unlocked something entirely different at that point, right? Like, it's a whole it's a whole other level.
Yes, and you get to honor your boundaries. Somebody said something to me. She was a crossing guard, and I used to pass her every morning. I haven't seen her since before the pandemic. I would imagine she has moved on, as many people have. But something she said to me that God, it just hit my chest like that, was sometimes people are the way they are because they want something from you.
Yeah, that's true.
Sometimes people are like that because they want something from you.
That's true.
What did they want? My dad wanted control and discipline. Hence kind of forced religion and narcissism.
Gosh.
Yeah. He was
the forced religion. I mean, so for anyone who's listening, obviously won't know the background, like, Shrig and I have talked a little bit to kind of explore this story and see, like, what would the background kind of be, and, like, we got to know each other a little bit just to see if, like, it was a good fit. And so we had talked about kind of our shared religious trauma, and how similar our fathers actually were. I didn't grow up evangelical, but I did grow up in a heavy religious household. There were a lot of references. There was a lot of expectations from me to be on this righteous path and to grow up and be a woman of God and serve a husband, which is just hilarious for me because I was never going to serve a man in my life. I am gay as hell. So, that really fucked with my brain. I was like, how am I ever supposed to serve a man as a husband? Like, I don't want one.
That puzzle piece doesn't go with this puzzle piece.
Yeah, I was like, these don't fit.
Right.
At all.
Right. At all.
I was gonna make a very inappropriate reference, but my mom will watch this later, and I don't want her to judge me. I'm gonna make it anyway. I'm gonna make it anyway. Mom, forgive me. Mom, forgive me. I'm gonna say these puzzle pieces don't fit. Oh God, sorry, Mom. I had to.
I love it. Oh my God.
Sorry.
That's so funny. Yeah.
Please don't judge me.
No,
She might judge me a little bit. She might like be really embarrassed at first, and then she'll think it was funny.
It is funny.
She's definitely gonna text me about it and be like, "What are you doing? What is wrong with you?"
Hey Ma, it was funny.
I love my mom. My mom is amazing. She's the best person in the world.
Yeah.